All right. Nothing's on fire yet, so that's a good sign.
Cool.
I am Sir Johann Gasmask Esquire the Third. Someone had three of me.
No, terrifying.
Mm.
Yes.
I am Lionel Johnson, and I'm going second because I need to take a dump, and I should be back by the time the other two are done.
I am Alfonso Gal, your dashing robot Bondo.
Yes, and he is our guest host
Yes.
for today as an audience stand-in because turns out everyone else in this call knows a lot about the Imperial Guard. So we
I
figured
know
we
a little bit. I don't know
yeah.
a huge deep though.
So I figured we'd pull in someone that was relatively new to the setting.
Yes.
I guess that leaves me. I'm Saltius, and I will be trying to not say the same thing everyone else is saying because I think we have a lot of knowledge in common here as well.
Mhm.
Plus, hopefully that'll spare your ears of my microphone.
Yes, he is on the poor setup today.
So just for a level of context, I played orcs and I played Eldar a little bit. I played a lot of Eldar actually and a little bit of orcs. It's the other way around. But man, I like to go fast. You gotta go
Yeah.
fast. The understanding that I have of the Imperial Guard when I faced them was, oh my god, that's a lot of models. First off, oh my god, why tanks? So many tanks. And then, oh wait, you do fuck all damage. What's going on here? I'm an Eldar. You should be able to sneeze at me and I die. What's going on? That was my experience with the Imperial Guard from a gameplay standpoint, and then
Yeah.
from a narrative standpoint, I understand that they are the best of humanity. Like Astartes are cool,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Astartes aren't. I don't consider the Astartes.
I think officially speaking and in universe, they're considered post-human.
Right. Yeah, because they have that new rule, the transhuman dread thing. I did overhear about.
Yeah, I think that's always been a thing.
Is it?
I
This
heard
this
the
is my
term
knowledge of the other
before
doctor.
more recent editions, so I don't
But
know how new it is.
that's kind of where I'm at. I know a little bit of like deep, like little snippets. Like I know Cadia stands, and I know like
You
most
know
my
some
exposure
of
to
the
them is through
memes.
memes. Yeah, exactly. I know mostly the memes. The
What-
Lamau flashlight.
Oh, I fucking hate the
Sly
flashlight
Marvo
meme.
sleeps with a
Slime
pillow
Marble
under his gun.
you at all? Oh, okay, it does.
Well,
Well, as long as you know that, we'll get right through this.
Mhm.
So, a little bit of my background. I've
Mm.
never played a full-size 40K game with them.
Mm-hmm.
I usually play them in Kill Team because, a bunch of models. But what I've learned
Right.
from playing them, like you mentioned, was fuck all damage. It's like, yeah, all the models on the field don't mean shit if you can't roll anything but ones or sixes or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while. I've read all the Gaunt's Ghost books. I've
Same.
read the first Kane book. I've read Krieg. I've spent a million years on the wiki, and the time that I wasn't spending on the wiki, I was probably listening to YouTube lore videos while I was delivering for Domino's.
Mhm.
So,
yeah.
I do know quite a bit about the Guard.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much as I know about Space Marines, but enough. So I want to kind of sit back and just fill in blanks.
Mhm. Yeah, that's about my experience, though I'm more on the lore video side. Like,
Yeah, there's so
I-
much good lore.
oh yeah,
content out
no,
there,
like
though.
I remember back when Volts of Terra was still up and active. I don't know if any of y'all know who or what that was, but they were old school lore videos and they did it good. But yeah, they had regimental breakdowns and all that. It was great. I've read a lot of the books, all of Gaunt's Ghosts, most of Kane's, save for the short stories. And
If I may,
Hmm?
if I may make a small and painful admission, and this is my big like I said, I've played against them. I know a little bit of how they play on the tabletop and a little bit of the memes. I have not read a single book that features them.
Wow.
Well, that's not necessarily true. I read the horror anthology because I was so. Oh my god, the horror. I forget the name of that thing. The one where it was like the rain and everything was one of them. There's a bunch of spooky stories. But yeah, I am. That is my major failing as a 40k nerd. Is I never really got into the Black Library.
Yeah.
I really should. I just bought a tablet that I just jailbroke so I can read books on it. I'm kind of tempted to start grabbing.
Oh, I listen to a lot of the audiobooks.
Yeah,
Really?
Audible is king.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of pissed off because the current Gaunt's Ghost book I'm listening to has a different narrator, and it just ruins the entire experience.
Mm.
Because you get so used to X voice, and it's like, yeah, this is the voice of that regiment, but you don't think that until a new guy comes in, and
Well,
he's
it's
got...
like when you're. It's like if you're listening to the Horus Heresy series and then someone other than Jonathan Keeble shows up saying, "What the fuck?"
Oh no, what is it? Sanctus Reach has a completely different and extremely Scottish voice narrator, and I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
He makes some of the older ghosts just sound like old
I do not like
ladies.
I don't like the narrator for Arcadia Falls
I haven't heard that.
or Arcadia
but-
Stand, whatever the fuck one I'm reading right now.
All right, on from the books.
Mhm.
I believe our first section is the overview of the Imperial Guard, or Astra Militarum. Basically, the Imperial Guard, Astra Militarum, is the overall catch-all term for normal human soldiers that are in regular military service of the Imperium of Man.
Basically, just the army.
Yeah.
If I may make a question about that, because this is the thing that's always confused me, is what is the difference between Astra Militarum and I think it's called the PDF?
Ooh. So the PDF is for individual planets.
Okay.
And a lot of planets actually draw from the PDF to feed their guard quotas.
Okay.
You can sort of correlate it. The modern American equivalent is the Astra Militarium is the military. The PDF would be like kind of the equivalent of the National Guard.
Coast Guard, something like that.
Okay.
It
Like it's a rough. It's not exactly
Like
The-
a reserve.
the closest thing I can
local-
think of actually is the Texas State Guard,
yeah.
Okay.
because they don't serve the Imperium directly; they serve the planetary government.
But they might be on reserve and then get pulled into. I got you.
Well, no, like the Texas State Guard can't do that, technically speaking.
Really?
Mm-mm. They
Okay,
do not answer to federal authority. They answer to the government.
Of course, because it's Texas.
Yeah, I'm
Thanks,
actually
Texas,
looking into
out here.
joining them once I'm
It's-
not fat.
Militia is not the right word for it because it is properly organized and coordinated with actual law enforcement and,
Mm-hmm.
from what I
Yeah.
understand, National Guard.
Because, okay, that makes sense. So, like, the PDF would be the military and policing force for the planet, and then the Extra Militarum is what they're tithing out and saying, okay,
Yeah,
these are our
it's-
guys, these are the ones you
yeah.
selected, take them and go do.
Federal troops versus state troops, essentially.
Okay.
Though,
Mm.
in times of emergency, the PDF can and will be co-opted into Imperial Guard command echelons.
And this is very stating the scale of the operation is.
Yeah.
Federal
Oh,
versus
well,
state
yeah.
really is not a proper equivalent.
Okay,
At
imagine. Okay,
But as
imagine
far as
if.
like
Yeah,
jurisdictionary, that's the best that I can compare it to
Yeah,
in
so
order to
I-
explain it.
yeah,
I have a pretty good comprehension of sci-fi scaling, and like
yeah.
I get
But-
what you mean.
yeah.
The scale boggles billions and trillions.
To
quite
If I
really-
get
don't
a
clarify,
closer-
somebody on
yeah.
Twitter is gonna screech.
Yeah.
yeah.
So to get a closer image on scale, it would be essentially if, there was a president of Earth,
Yeah.
and then he had his military, and then every town and city on the planet had its own military.
Mm-hmm.
That's close to about just on sheer numbers involved.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
That's wild.
Mhm.
That's just the scale boggles them. I love it when they play with scale like that.
Oh yeah, it's what is it like? Trillions of planets,
Mm.
some with trillions and trillions of people on them, and almost every single one in a certain amount of years gives out, or in a certain amount of time, whether it be within a year or multiple years, decades, maybe even centuries, is required to give out at least one regiment.
That's so fucking insane. Because it's
Yeah.
like a bunch of little sand grains, and then all of a sudden it's a mountain.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a couple different branches within the Astra Militarum, or at least
Mhm.
associated with it.
Right.
There's the Adeptus Strategium, I think. I might be wrong on that one. I know the Imperial Navy has one, but I don't know. There's also the Adeptus Munitorum, which is in charge of supplying everything.
Mm-hmm. That's one that actually really interests me as a
Oh.
big logistics nerd.
Yeah, it's essentially a bunch of logistics personnel
Mm-hmm.
that follows around every single regiment, and they've got enough people to really move shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
we're talking entire columns of APCs and flatbed trucks. Just for
Engineering
logistics.
vehicles and-
Yeah.
yeah, dude. That is the stuff
Mhm.
that's super always interested. I would love to see a book
Yeah.
written just from that perspective.
Oh yeah, there's also I think they also organize labor gangs. Like, say if you
Mhm.
need to dig up a huge like trench system, they will get like entire formations of penal workers, slaves, menials, all kinds of shit to help dig and pour concrete and whatever else for those fortifications. So it's not just, supplying and, fixing, XYZ
Yeah,
vehicles and
It's like
equipment.
CDs
It's
kind of vibes.
Yeah.
Wonderfully, too. Every regiment had almost a city of people that follow them around and help keep them functional.
Ooh, that's
And all of
actually
that lives somewhere too nearby.
yeah, that's
Rogue Trader, the video game, actually did a very good job with dealing with some of that, as
Yeah.
far as like the way people would live in decks of the ships.
actually it's the regimental entourage isn't specifically any one part of any organization. It is an unofficial organization that the Imperium lets exist purely because it's good for morale and it keeps them from fucking off. Because I believe it was Harp in Gaunt's Ghosts that said something like, a commissar once suggested that if we get rid of regimental retinues, we would cut costs by 50%. And someone else said, well, if we do that, we would lose the entire military force within whatever area you're doing that in.
Yeah, that seems like a silly... Well, it's one of those bean counter things. Like, oh, this is a great idea.
Yeah. And then another commissar comes along like, no, you're fucking stupid. They would desert in a heartbeat.
It exists for a logical reason, though, because the amount of time and distance traveled away from the people you were supposed to be away from. Realistically, if you joined the military, you would never see them again. So being able to carry those commitments with you keeps you active as a soldier.
And it's not necessarily like family members. It's prostitutes. It's drug dealers, gambling dens, knife sharpeners, black market dealers, gray market dealers, all kinds of shit. And they just follow them around, you know, because otherwise 9 times out of 10, the Imperial Guard is just paying these troopers and they're never going to spend it. But with the retinue around, they end up spending the money and it gets out into circulation. So that's another factor on why it exists.
Interesting.
Yeah. What else can we go on the overview? There's a bunch of different types of regiments from different planets and different cultures, and even different technology levels. The Munitorum will try and supply everyone to the same or similar standards, which is like, you know, las guns and flak armor and, you know, comm beads and shit, but that's never a guarantee.
Especially if they've got their own manufactorum, like...
Oh, yeah.
At home, like, God, what's that one? Vostroyans, I think they're...
Oh, yeah. Like, so long as a regiment meets X standards, that's cool. And they can use their own gear. But if they don't, the Munitorum will make an effort to supply them with whatever gear they're missing.
Okay.
However, not even then, not every regiment can do that. Because I believe there are some examples of regiments that are auto guns and stub guns, or laslocks and muzzleloaders and shit.
Right. And then that's like that's like at their level of training, so they may not have the technical competency or the tech level to maintain that shit.
That's just it. The Munitorum will send specialists to help train these regiments.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, if they can't get them las rifles, well, shit, we got a stockpile of fucking, you know, Kalashnikov 47s over here, but...
M1911s, they're still around.
They are still canon, yes. I love that.
Yeah.
40,000 World Wars.
Probably more than that when you think about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It starts scaling exponentially after you start getting multiple planets.
Yeah, when you're part of a galactic empire, everything is a world war.
Right.
Yeah.
Even the roles of, like, the Imperial Guard regiments can vary. But there's one thing that is a near universal rule. Granted, this falls under, it's a rule, but it's not always followed. And that's almost every single regiment and regiment type out there is its own type of unit. They do not have, as standard doctrine, combined arms units.
And that's, from what I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's because of the Horus Heresy. That's like an echo or a shadow of the Horus Heresy, right?
Yes. It is to protect as much as possible from, you know, heresy and treason. Because if you have a bunch of infantry, right, and they decide they want to revolt, it's much easier to deal with when compared to a combined arms unit with tanks and artillery and aircraft.
It's like a game of rock, paper, scissors almost.
Yeah.
Where
It's-
you want to have as
Yeah.
much operational advantage on each unit.
Oh yeah, it is very much that. It is. It is.
I do want to point out that almost everything you can probably route back and be like, and this is because of the Horus Heresy. So I was just kind of like, again, just
Yeah, that particular rule I think came about as a result of the Horus Heresy, but I think since then it's more or less proven itself that it's not necessarily just the Horus Heresy. There's a very good chance of people deserting in certain circumstances, like demons and shit.
Especially if you're not told what the hell a demon is. First time you see it, you're like,
Oh
oh,
yeah,
balls.
that's
Oh no.
yeah. There's a book in Gaunt's Ghosts that talks about that Armor of Contempt. One of the characters is sectioned off to a different part of the to a different regiment for various reasons, and that regiment ends up in a fucking big ass city fight, and then a huge ass, I think it was a bloodletter, just shows up and wrecks house.
God.
Tanks, regimental psychers,
Right.
big ass horde of infantry, and the bloodletter's like, hey look, a toy, and throws it across the town square. Imperial Guard regiments don't typically have their own air power either. That's usually a product of the Imperial Navy. That said, there's exceptions to that. Fantine is known for producing Imperial Guard fighter regiments, or at least PDF fighter regiments.
So sort of like a Army Air Force.
Yeah, like pretty much like that. And then you've also got like drop trooper regiments, particularly the Elysians, who many of them have stationed with them permanently, either Imperial Navy or just straight up Imperial Guard Valkyrie dropships and gunships.
Okay, and then you said those were like the drop troopers. That makes
Yes. Paratroopers, essentially, and they do exactly what you think.
sense. Yeah, deep strike. Let's go. Woo!
Yeah. The Elysians are actually pretty cool. I read a couple of their books, and it about covers the overview. As for organization, well, that one's fun. Let me pull that up real quick. Because it is a bunch of numbers, and yeah.
It's gonna be a hint at the scale of the.
Oh yeah, no. Well, it's not just the scale; it's the variety.
Oh, okay. See, here's my thing. The Imperial Guard are proof that the Emperor was just a gigantic 4X nerd. Like, he's just hanging out playing, like, Stellaris, like, endgame trillions of swarms of combined arms fleets.
Yeah.
I just... totally. He's a 4X guy, 100%.
Yeah. Oh god, there's a whole ass chart. So you've got many different types of regiment. You have armored regiments, artillery regiments, death world regiments, drop regiments, heavy infantry regiments, hunter-killer regiments, light infantry regiments, line infantry regiments, mechanized infantry regiments, and those I think are actually pretty rare. Recon, yeah.
That'd be weird.
I think the Armageddon Steel Legion is like one of the few planets or regimental types that are allowed to make combined arms regiments.
Because I was gonna say, do they mean mechanized like we think mechanized infantry, or do they mean mechanized infantry like actual walker mechs? Because those are a thing that exist. I've seen them on the table.
No, it means what we think, which is
Okay.
a regiment where all infantry units possess their own organic transportation.
Interesting.
You also have recon regiments, and those can be any number of things, up to and including essentially what we think of like mechanized cavalry today. In like, you know, the fucking 1st Cavalry Division or whatever the fuck, where they're literally just recon, but in
vehicles and
IFVs.
underfights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also have siege infantry regiments, and it's
Krieg.
Actually, Krieg makes its own armies. Just straight up, like, oh, we don't need like
Really?
combined arm. No, we don't need combined arms regiments. We'll just give you an entire army.
That's terrifying.
Oh yeah, no, like the Siege of Rax is one of the best examples. Because
Everything I hear about Krieg is just like
It's
anything I
fucking
hear about the Death
ridiculous.
Corps, it's so nuts.
yeah,
That's the only one that I've read actual fanfic of as well.
yeah,
Which
they're
was
a fan favorite. And here's one that I don't quite I just discovered, which is a sub-regiment. Some regiments may contain separate formations within them, known as sub-regiments. The Ventrilian nobles, for instance, are known to look down upon the non-Ventrilian members of their regiments and place these guardsmen in sub-regiments known as Ventrilian ignobles.
really.
Oh, and you know there are like entire regiments of blue bloods and shit too.
I mean, fair. You're going to be on the front line. That's great, but
Yeah.
something makes me think that the ignobles are going to be taking the brunt of the casualties.
Oh yeah, no.
Not only just because they're going to send them in, it's because, you know, if you're a noble, you probably have some cash. You probably get better carapace armor.
Oh yeah, no. Like fuck, what were they called in like the first Gaunt's Ghost book? They were a heavy infantry regiment.
So like a heavier, you were saying a heavier infantry. So like not
Yeah.
heavy weapon squads, but like shock troops.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
What is that one?
Oh yeah, the Jinro anime thing. Yeah.
Jinro. That was the name.
Yeah.
I wanted to say Junji Ito for some reason.
No. Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah.
But
It's
like
essentially
vibe?
like that. Yeah.
okay.
They're clad. They were clad in, you know, heavy carapace. Well, standard carapace armor, but
Mhm.
heavy to distinguish from light carapace armor, because that's also a thing.
Right.
And las guns, and they will have heavy weapons troopers, but they won't have like tripod mounted shit.
Mhm.
Not typically, I don't think. It's like, oh, here's a cut down auto cannon that you can carry
right.
and fire from the hip and shit like that.
That's
Mhm.
fucking terrible. Because I know how big an autocannon is. That is literally just like a Madu's trucking. No, that would be a heavy autocannon, wouldn't it?
It'd be a heavy stubber.
Okay.
An autocannon is essentially taking a 20mm Orlikin gun and putting it on a tripod. And then there are other people, like in 40K, that just straight up say, nah, and pick it up off the tripod and fire it from the fucking hip.
Horrifying.
Oh yeah, no, it's...
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
I actually made a character that was just that.
I just imagine the recoil. It makes me happy. I love recoil. Imagine the recoil.
Oh no, yeah, like in many of the tabletop RPGs, there is a talent called Bulging Biceps that allows you to fire heavy weapons without a tripod. Otherwise, you
half
get
over.
knocked back like 3 meters. Yeah, essentially.
built different.
Yup. You got to meet like certain ballistic skill and strength requirements. It depends on the system.
Oh yeah, like prereqs.
Yeah.
Those are always good. And
that's-
so you're saying that's a subunit of that. So like there's the regiments, but the regiments sometimes have little parts of them carved out to do more focused tasks or for cultural reasons.
Yeah. For instance, the Acadian, and this is just like Acadian armored regiment, right?
Right.
They'll have a number of companies of regular armor, Lehman Russes,
Right.
typically like 3. Each company's like 10 tanks. And then you'll have a heavy company of Bane Blades.
Okay.
Or, in the example I'm looking at,
Or a discount
Bane
Blade.
Blade.
Yeah.
There's some, but like that's typically like heavy regiments that just like, we can't afford Bane Blades, so we're just going to use Macarius heavy tanks, essentially.
Or like a Hellhammer or some shit.
Mhm.
Where it's like, Bane Blades are kind of big.
Yeah. Well, a Hellhammer is just a Bane Blade, but it's got quad demolisher cannons instead of the mega battle cannon.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
instead of having one anti-structure cannon and one anti-big shit, big vehicle cannon,
Mhm.
you just have 4 heavy anti-structure cannons in 2 different turrets.
That sounds like way too much fire. I love it.
Oh yeah, no, it's... Imagine, if you will, a giant
No kill.
KV-2 with 2 turrets. With 2 twin turrets.
It's no kill like Overkill, the tank.
Oh yeah, no. Like Bane Blades are fucking ridiculous. Then you have a recon squadron attached to
Right.
that regiment. And you also have an anti-aircraft squadron attached to the regiment.
But since they're Cadians, they're all flavored and lean towards whatever Cadia is.
Cadia is
preferential toward.
the bog standard American GI of the Imperial Guard.
Okay. So it's a good kind of vertical slice of what your standard Imperial Guard was.
Most people that make regiments will style their gear and tactics after Cadia.
Okay.
Because Cadian gear and tactics are proven and known to work. Just
Okay, yeah.
straight up.
I typed in Cadian Trooper and I like that is literally just an Imperial Guard.
Oh yeah,
Got
it is, yeah.
Okay,
They are
cool. That makes sense.
they are Imperial Guard Esquire,
Yeah.
And that's just an armored regiment example. All regiments have at least one attached representative of the Officio Perfectus, otherwise known as commissars.
Okay, I was like, you lost me.
Yeah.
But, okay.
And their entire job isn't just, shoot anyone that steps out of line. It is discipline in and of itself, in all forms. That is their job.
I heard, and again, this is this is all secondhand stuff, but like the vibe that I've seen from the commissars is that they're not just Lamau shoot the retreaters, but he's like, what is that one meme? Drive me closer, I want to hit them with my sword. Like they are not hanging back and picking their nose while going over the top. They're the dude that's
Yeah, they are there
that's
to
just
inspire.
it.
okay.
Every commissar has their own style.
Okay.
In Gaunt's Ghosts, it's perfectly, exemplified. Just like within one regiment, within like 15 years, they had like half a dozen different commissars. You had like a strict disciplinarian. You had a laid back, the trooper's friend. You had the heroic figurehead, which was Gaunt himself.
Mhm.
And then you had another one whose entire being was giving inspiring speeches. Like, that's how he inspired discipline and courage in his men. And that also goes towards enforcing regulations. Like, they have their own handbook. And as far as I understand, there is no set punishment for XYZ offense. It is the suggested punishment.
I see. So they have so it seems like to me then the commissars have a lot of leeway in their command.
They do, because they have to
Yeah.
deal with so many different types of
Yeah.
trooper.
Also,
Ooh.
as I was going to say, the special thing about commissars is that technically they are outside the chain of command.
Really? Because that's what I was going to ask. Because I was like, who do the commissars report to then? Are they?
They
like,
have their own
toddlers, like,
rank
at some-
structure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
They can lead, they can take charge. And from what I understand, they will more or less listen to the regimental officer cadre in certain instances,
Mm-hmm.
but largely they are their own thing.
Yeah.
Like, they'll listen to, X colonel or whatever in charge of X regiment, but the moment he steps out of line bad enough, he will relieve him of command or just fucking shoot him in the face.
Okay.
Yep,
So
pretty cool.
I was gonna say, so the commissaries have like a lot of ladder rank,
Yeah.
and they report to higher commissars. So there's,
Mhm.
a rank system there.
There's all kinds of ranks and shit. You've got
Okay.
general commissars, lord commissars. I don't
Its
think
own
they've gone
whole
too
thing.
I don't think they've gone too deeply into the rank structure, strictly
Oh.
speaking, but
I do remember they kind of have like a court system as well, because I remember Caiaphas Cain nearly got punished
yeah,
because
yeah,
he was willing to do something that no one else was.
yeah.
Hmm.
He handled his regiment and shit differently, but
Yeah, he was nice.
yeah, and there are commissars that do that. Gaunt is one of them,
Yeah.
but he can't touch on the commissariat without touching on Colonel Commissar Ibrahim Gaunt, because he is both the regimental political officer and the regimental commanding officer. He is Colonel Commissar.
Oh my God. So he's
Mm-hmm.
man. I would
He's
not
big,
want to be
big.
him. That's so much responsibility and shit to deal with. That would be a migraine. That's what I'm thinking. Is I'm like I'm putting myself in this dude's shoes, and I'm just like, man, you have like 78 problems to solve before you even can go to the mess and get your breakfast or your coffee. Like,
Well, I think he was helped out largely by the fact that his regiment was. I can't get too deep into it without going into spoilers territory, but he had a regiment that was good at fighting, pretty well got along together,
Mm-hmm.
and the officers more or less knew how to handle it. And
Okay,
he
so
was
he was able to
actually,
delegate.
yeah, he delegated a lot of
That's
shit.
cool. Good. That's the way you should do it.
Mhm. He was also fairly lenient.
Well,
Like, he gave them like smokes rations and like liquor rations and shit on top of other shit. Because
that's the thing that I would love to experiment with is try and make the standard ration for your average guardsman, but also the shit that they got. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the stuff that like garbage trench liquor that they made or whatever. And that'd be funny to attempt to create.
like they actually they made their they had their own like liquor that was native to their planet that they just made.
Mm-hmm. But,
I know that some characters in the book series described it as antifreeze and or jet fuel.
oh, okay. I know how to make that. That's easy.
Yeah.
I'll tell. I have a recipe that's literally called JP8. I'll tell you it later. It's horrible, but it involves Everclear. Put it that way.
Yeah, I mean,
Jesus.
yeah.
But so
Yeah.
from an organizational standpoint, then when the regiments are working together, how do they kind of do that? Like
they have
I
an
understand that they have the
overall. They have an overall commanding officer of the
Okay.
several different regiments. And
So it
if
isn't
they're
like Matryoshka doll. It isn't like, okay, these 2 regiments make up a battalion. This battalion makes up an
No.
army. It's
it
just,
is
you
you
guys
have
are in charge.
you have
Okay.
X many regiments within whatever the fuck army you're in.
Oh my god, that must be so.
I mean, they delegate like those officers have their own.
Yeah.
They
They have a
have
retinue.
like, yeah, they have their own retinues of command staff and even commissars and Munitorum representatives, Astrotelepathica representatives, fucking Imperial Navy representatives, all kinds of shit,
Mhm.
just to help them,
Manage it.
yeah.
I
And
mean,
also,
like 38
all of
trillion
this,
vox cats coming in every second. How are you gonna? How else are you gonna deal?
that actually gets into another thing. The composition of these regiments can vary a lot.
Mhm.
I think it's something like anywhere from.
Well, because you
Uh,
said
Talking
that
about how
the
many
armor.
how many people are in a regiment? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like 500,000 or something.
Jesus.
Well, no, it depends. Well, no, not really. I think it's like anywhere from a couple hundred to a couple thousand up to the tens of thousands. And it's broken down from the regiment to any number of companies from 3 to like 10.
Because that was my understanding of military organization. Like, this is what I'm thinking of. Is like,
Mhm.
if I'm in command of this, how I'm gonna deal with this shit is, I have experienced attempting to manage a platoon of more than 50 people before, and I will never do that again in my entire life.
Oh, yeah.
25 is about as many as I would want to manage individually before I would delegate it out.
So I
I'm-
thought
I'm,
we were
like,
talking
thinking
about an
about that.
entire regiment. No, man.
Yeah, no.
No, but I'm thinking like how that gets organized all the way up, and I'm like, man, that is a game of Chinese whispers.
So,
It
yeah.
doesn't.
Holy-
That's the problem. It doesn't.
Right.
Uh,
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so to get into it, each regiment is commanded by a colonel, and they'll usually have a
Okay.
second officer and a bunch of like third officers in the form of majors and a major or several, and then a bunch of captains. Each of those officers is in charge of a company, typically. And then you break it down from there into platoons and squads with, depending on the size of the regiment, it might be sergeants or it might be captains in charge of platoons. And then, it's broken down into squads from there.
Yeah,
And
because you're not gonna put you're not gonna put a sergeant in charge of a Bane blade. Like
No,
Cap's gonna be on that one.
those are captain
Yeah.
or higher. I think
I can imagine.
yeah, and squad size can vary very much too, even depending on the type of regiment.
Okay, yeah.
So, like a squad's going to be like 4 or 5 dudes because that's a tank. That's all the guys that are going to fit and run that tank.
Right.
But you can also get into like penal regiments or scratch companies that are dozens, if not hundreds of people. Because you don't necessarily need to manage that squad. You just need to point them at the enemy and tell them to go die.
Right.
Pretty much.
And there's everything in between that.
That's the cool thing about, I think, the thing that I think attracts a lot of people to the Imperial Guard, at least from what I understand, is it's the diversity of just, you can do a lot of different stuff. But every single time I talk to somebody about that, it's while they have an army that is Canadian and is the regular organization, I go, well, I mean, you don't.
That's because that's all the model. That's
I know.
GW only ever does KDNs, and it pisses me off.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, they would.
they've got old models of like Valhalla and Ice Warriors, Desert Raiders, but yeah, it's a
It's
shame
all
they
gonna
don't
have to
do
be
anything
fit
with us.
bashed. Oh gosh, imagine.
Forge World used to have a huge variety of Death Corps of Krieg and they had a specific book on just the death, like 3 of them, on just the
Right.
Death Corps of Krieg and the Siege of Vrax.
Yeah.
And then that went away.
Yeah, they got rid of that. It pissed me off. I mean, I don't play, but it's still, what the fuck, guy? These people were cool. Some of their shit was cool.
Yeah, it can be. I imagine it being frustrating.
And then and then we get into the other like attachments you can have to a regiment. You can have, you've got commissars, but a lot of regiments will also have Ministorum priests, Imperial Creed priests, essentially.
Yeah.
Those guys are also often outfitted with, chain swords and shotguns. But
I was gonna say because the ecclesiarchy.
Yeah.
Go, the Sisters of Battle are right there.
Yeah, well, the Sisters of Battle, from what I understand, don't really mesh well with the Imperial Guard because the Sisters
Really?
of Battle,
Yeah, they really don't.
they fight more on like instinct, I want to say.
Oh, they're harder to
And-
direct.
Like, well, first off, they aren't going to listen to an Imperial officer unless they're specifically told to.
Right.
Yeah.
And even then, that Imperial officer is going to be standing there looking at his lines like, what the fuck am I looking at? Where do I put
Yeah.
you?
Why
You're
is
about
there a
to get-
Saint
you're about
Celestine
to-
just showed up? Why is she here?
You're about to get overrun. You've got some Sisters of Battle with you, and you say retreat, and they're like, "Fuck you, you coward," and shoot you.
Well, I don't know about that. Well,
No, they
that's
will-
certainly a
they will-
possibility.
yeah.
What you do is you point at them and say, "You're the rear guard," and then run
yeah.
Yeah,
because they're not going to retreat.
yeah.
Yeah. Patron saint of lost causes.
Your sisters are really, really stubborn.
I can
Well,
imagine.
it doesn't help that they are they can literally pull miracles out of their asses.
True, true.
Well, yeah.
Imagine this: you're an Imperial Guardsman, you're in a trench, and then the bitch in power armor next to you just starts glowing gold, and bullets start sparking off of her unprotected face.
Mm. It's rare, but it does happen.
Or
I'm not saying warp shenanigans, but I'm saying
it
warp-
literally
I-
is. Like if like we went over this in the last episode, Imperial Saints, like living saints, are literally just Imperial demons.
Mm.
Is that canon or is that a fan theory? Has that been canonized? Because I know I heard about what happened with Robot Girly Man,
Yeah.
and where he literally warp demoned himself back into reality. Well, he didn't. Big E did. But like, so is can we call that canon? Can that be called canon?
Yeah, because
that's warp fuckery?
Saint Celestine literally every time she is killed, she has to climm through
Yeah.
the warp on the pile of her own corpses.
She cannot. Yeah.
Right.
She cannot die. She is just
Delayed.
sent back to the warp.
Yeah.
and
and-
that's literally the
Mhm.
definition of a demon.
Yep.
So,
It is a warp-born entity.
oh,
That
that's some big heresy.
well, no, not really, because they don't call them Imperial demons. They call
Right.
them saints and angels and shit like that.
Right.
Yeah, she's fine. She's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Well, no, I meant just saying that it's warp fuckery is probably heresy.
It is. It
Like,
certainly
oh,
is. Like Imp's Biggie, he is straight up a chaos god. Well, not chaos, but he is a warp god.
Yeah.
But anyway, to get on from that,
Mhm.
we went over the Ministorum priest. There's also the Militarum Auxilia, which is abhumans, ratlings, ogrins.
That's where they end up.
Yes, they are.
I
They
was
are.
intending to ask you about
yeah.
that. That's a good answer to that question.
They are their own regiments, but much like an armor or a mechanized infantry, or a mechanized brigade, or something like that, they will be broken up and parceled out to regiments as needed.
Okay.
Like, an infantry regiment might have a company of tanks attached to them from a different regiment, or they might just get a fucking horde of Ratling snipers. It just it depends on the tactical situation and the available resources, and whether or not the people in charge of that shit did the right paperwork.
Imagine that last part is probably the biggest bending point. It's the biggest lever arm. Because if you don't do the paperwork right, I imagine that the Departamento Munitorum...
there is an excerpt from that in Gaunt's Ghosts, Guns of Tanith, and this is minor spoilers, but they're going into their first fight on this planet, and they are hot dropping in. They need ammunition. Well, the regiment, the Tanith First and Only, is like, hey, we need some ammo. And, they say size 3 standard.
All right.
Well, the Munitorum fucked up and gave them size 5 standard.
Oh, no.
Because that was the standard on the planet.
Oh, I wanted to tell this story.
So what I'm hearing is this is like the metric and like where they got centimeters and inches mixed up on that one Pro, but it fucking hard impacted into the dirt. It was just boom. NASA did that, I think it was, or it was that or the EU Space Agency. Hard crash landed into the dirt.
Well, it's not like imagine,
but that idea.
Well, no, it's more like a Ranger battalion going up and saying, hey, we need this ammo. And they're requesting it from, say, like a quartermaster for SF or whatever. And they're like, okay. And instead of a bunch of 5.56 sticks in, aluminum Stanag or whatever.
It's 7.62.
Yeah, it's 7.62 NATO in fucking Scar H mags.
And you're just sitting there like, well, that's a...
And that's literally what happened.
It's unfortunate because we can't shoot any of it. When we get this taken care of, maybe in 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's...
and I can imagine the lead times.
Make do with what you got.
Yeah, they, like...
And they fucking did, because they were kings.
Yeah, they, So what they did is, like, Imperial Guardsmen will hoard ammunition at the best of times.
Oh, yeah.
So there will always be leftover ammunition mags, power cells. Every author in the fucking Black Library calls it a clip, and I want to bash their heads in for it. But...
to be fair, there are a lot of them are from the UK, so we have to be nice to the people across the pond. They don't get it.
We don't have to.
I mean, we
didn't get this far by being nice to the people across the pond.
Anyway,
Lionel just sitting here like,
I'm fucking.
I love you, Lion.
Anyway, every regiment will end up with a surplus of power cells for their las guns. That doesn't get back to the Munitorum. Well, they scrounged them all together, and they only ended up with like 60 shot las cells for each man, which is still a fucking lot, because that was like 4,000 men.
And also, those can be the las cells, because I want to talk about this when we're talking about the equipment more, but the las one is mad.
We'll get into the equipment standards, but and to round all of that out, they will also get Imperial Psyker support attachments.
Or that comes with some trepidation.
Yeah, that is a second job for the commissar or the commissariat as a whole, depending on how many psychers are attached. But, it is the Scholastica Psychona.
That's going to be super stressful.
Yeah. And their entire thing is, okay, we expect warp fuckery in some way, so we're gonna attach this weird, scrawny dude covered in scars and wires that's screaming about the voices to your regiment. Have fun!
Oh,
And don't worry about that. He knows what he needs to do.
Oh.
You just make sure he gets there alive.
It reminds me of what is it, a Quake Cannon? An excerpt from that by Arch. Arch Warhammer.
yeah.
Wherein the Quake Cannon shells are made from essentially the death scream of a planet. And it's always
okay.
screaming and moaning. And the excerpt is essentially, Commander, the ammunition is screaming at me. Don't worry about it. It'll go away when we fire it. And
I love that.
yeah, and that would also fit with the Psychers, I imagine.
God. That's nuts. That reminds me of something that I won't digress, but remind me to talk to you about something that you'll be into.
Yeah. And that transitions us over nicely to general equipment standards. Every regiment in the Imperial Guard, officially and generally speaking, is supposed to be outfitted as standard with las guns, flak armor, frag grenades, power cells, and comm beads. It's not always
Medical
guaranteed,
gear.
but that is the minimum of gear.
So they don't have medical gear as a standard thing.
I meant more like just as an overall like.
Oh, okay.
Issue,
I thought that was
like-
this is like the de facto list. Okay, I got you.
No, like they will have medical personnel and they will have life-saving medical equipment on them for like tourniquets and compression bandages and antiseptics and shit. But they will also have dedicated doctors and orderlies and field nurses.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
The las gun.
yes, the las
I
gun is
Love the las.
a blessing for
It is.
all logisticians everywhere.
It is so smart. It like. So you're telling me that this is a gun that it's an effective weapon. I don't care. I
Yeah.
know people are like, haha, it's a flashlight. It has a lot of energy.
Yeah,
And you have these packs, and these packs can be charged either by leaving them in the sun,
mm-hmm.
throwing them into don't throw them directly into the fire, but throwing them near a fire,
Yeah.
or charging them like in a regular standardized way.
Chimeras will actually
Diminishing
have
returns are so negligible that you can get away with this several times.
Yeah.
Making them
Mind-boggling.
that much more efficient.
chimeras actually have entire banks of las guns as port firing weapons that are just powered off of the chimera's engine, and they'll also have las cell charging banks.
So it's like, and that's the cool thing is that a lot of the vehicles, I imagine, have some form of charging system.
Assuming they are expected to carry standard line infantry, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is-
I doubt
they're-
like a Lehman Russ or a Sentinel would have one, but you would definitely have like the power tool battery chargers, just but
Mhm.
like giant with a bunch of slots in them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Somebody needs to make an illustration of that. Just some dude faffing around with those things.
yeah, just a giant like.
It's the
Cold-
wall of-
Yeah, no, it's just like a
The wall
section
brand
of
Knows
wall.
what the term thermomagnetics means because it sounds cool, but I don't know what that means.
Thermomagnetics?
Oh, are you looking at the wiki right now? Yeah, one sec.
Because
No, I don't remember where I got the definition, but I know it was. I don't know if it was from a wiki or from a video, but or maybe even from a book. But I remember the term thermomagnetics being related to clear charge.
I don't see anything about that in this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the the las guns are super, super good because they are not only good for logistics, but they are like the action itself is extremely versatile. They will have carbine variants, pistol
It's
variants.
scalable. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything up to from orbital lance batteries
Mm-hmm.
down to the Balon, which is Yarek's laser eye.
The Bale Eye. Oh my god, Yarek.
Mm-hmm. I think
Oh,
it's just like I think it's only like a single shot hell pistol.
It's something like that, and he just put it in there. Somebody said that he could shoot lasers out of it. It's like, okay, fine, I'll do it.
Yeah, it
What a
well
what
the story for that one is he heard that, and the orcs said that he had like the evil glare or some
evil
shit.
eye. Yeah.
So he's like, hey, I know I got a perfectly good eye here, but I need you to remove it and put in a laser weapon.
You put a fucking laser weapon in it. Oh my gosh.
Why not?
Yeah, no, fair. And as like I said, as a person who loves the orcs, that makes so much sense.
Yeah,
I don't know whether this is canon or not, but I think because of how orcs are, what happened was he actually like just quickly looked at an orc and it died. Because it believed he got shot by the laser eye.
I read the entire Yarek omnibus and I never once saw anything about that.
Oh damn.
Well, that's like a Sly
It'd
Marble
be funny
thing,
though, yeah. It'd be funny.
That's the whole. Sly Marble can throw a grenade and can kill. He can throw a grenade and kill 8 orcs, and then the grenade explodes.
Sly Marbo,
like,
Sly Marbo is literally just
mental.
40k Chuck Norris.
He is, and I love it. It's so dumb.
Only he looks like Rambo and fucking Arnold.
Yeah. But
yeah, it's the legacy of Chuck Norris, the body of Rambo, and then the face and haircut of Arnold.
I love that though. I love that there's these little silly things because if it's all grimdark, it hurt. I love grimdark and I love horror, but levity makes the horror better.
Oh yeah,
I agree.
They also have the quote triplex pattern las gun. Or wait, no, that's not the one I was thinking of. So they have things like volley fire, like shot lases, which are, unofficial modifications to turn a las gun into a shotgun. You have hot shot long las rifles, which are sniper rifles that are capable of blowing the head off, or not so powerful, but punching through Astartes armor, at least the weak points.
The hot shots are the ones that they actually burn the batteries out, or they do something like where they're a little bit less. It's logistically frowned upon.
So, hot shot las guns, or hot shot long las, is essentially putting out the same amount of power as a hell gun, but with less, but through a less complex weapon than a hell gun.
Yeah, it's like you're overdriving it.
Yeah, it very much is, and they have concessions for that. They have quick change barrels. They have.
Okay.
You can recharge a hot shot las pack, but they will burn out rather fast.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, because I remember hearing something about. I forget where I've heard that. I think it was actually in one of the tabletop games because I was looking at the rules.
Yeah,
and they had something for hot shot where it like was not great for your logistics.
And there are.
Johan.
Yeah.
Is it that you can recharge the hot shot last? My understanding was that the hot shot for the standard last pattern that wasn't the health gun was a modification done to the clip that made it to where it fired once and then could never be charged again.
I've heard several different things about it.
And I'm sure there's
that's the way I'd always heard.
Porting.
Well, there's an example of that happening with a standard pattern las gun in.
You got
Anyway.
me, dude.
Yeah.
Uh,
Damn it.
I was gonna say I haven't read the books. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Essentially, he's got an old, worn-out las gun that's like third-hand requisition from the enemy, as in it was captured by the enemy and then captured from the enemy. And he had just been carrying it along this whole time, and it was super unreliable. But he went to pull the trigger, and it jammed, quote unquote. Only it discharged the entire fucking battery pack in a
Gotcha.
single shot, and it
like,
blew up
it,
a
like,
nearby
shorted.
rock. Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't short out the weapon, oddly enough, because he swapped las cells and did that. But I think hot shot is more for like. You could probably run like a hot shot las weapon or a hot shot pack through a las weapon, but you'd burn it out real fucking fast. The weapon itself.
Yeah, because you can. I also understand. And correct me if I'm wrong, because some of this is like second or third hand, and it might be out of date. But the Imperial Guard could kind of tweak the output.
Yes, I was
Of a
just
standard
about
one?
to. I was just about to get into that. There are
Okay,
las
like one on
weapons. Yeah,
adverts. Yeah,
there are las weapons that have power settings,
right.
which can go from. Some have settings that can go down to less lethal. Some can go up to settings that's, hey, we're shooting at Space Marines level of
Right.
shit.
It's time to penetrate Ceramite. Good luck.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I think that one is specifically issued to the Mordian Iron Guard, that particular pattern. Because
Okay.
they're used for policing actions, and it's also, so you don't want to, shoot all of your citizens while they're in a riot.
Yeah,
But,
don't mark your tax base as a general rule.
Yeah, so it had the less lethal option, and then it had the fuck you button.
Right.
But you wouldn't want to give that to a standard infantryman, because then they would fuck up the weapon something fierce. The reason
Or
they
would
gave
just turn
it,
it all the way up.
the reason they gave it to the Mordian Iron Guard is because they had the discipline on an individual level to only use it when they were told to.
Right.
Because a Mordian Iron Guardsman will follow the last order he was given and all of the regulations within until he is told otherwise.
So they have a pristine copy of the uplifting.
Yes, they actually read it. They also wear parade uniforms in combat.
That's
Full
so extra.
full on pressed blued. It is,
That is so- I love
bright
that.
blue, red stripe, peaked cap, or officer's cap,
Mhm. That's such a vibe. I want to see them going up against
Alright,
something like the
guys.
fucking Nids.
That is the las gun, the infantry weapon. They also have las cannons, which
Right.
is an anti-tank weapon, and they also have some other shit like multi-lasers.
And then
that
you
they
mentioned
can do.
grenades.
Yes, grenades. There's like an official list or something. It's like 2 frag and then like 2 smoke or some shit.
Yeah, because they have the crack, the frag, the smoke, the melta.
Yeah. Well, the Melta is more of a
That's
A
specialized.
limpet-
They're not.
yeah.
They're not
A-
using that.
a melta-
I'm just like listing off the one. Yeah.
A Melta bomb is more akin to a limpet mine
Okay.
than a grenade.
Okay.
So it's essentially a nuclear heat charge and it's got like a little limpet mine handle on it too and everything. It's great. Black armor, it will not stop it will stop it'll stop a grazing hit from a las gun,
Mm-hmm.
but its primary job is to make sure you don't die outright.
Right.
Because
It's
anything
yeah.
more is super fucking expensive.
it's like shrapnel and shit mostly,
Yeah.
or like minor like stuff that would casualty you.
Yeah, it's
It's like we want to avoid that.
I think flak armor was specifically chosen to mirror flak vests and flak jackets from
Right.
Vietnam.
Right.
They weren't going to stop outright a bullet, but it
Mhm.
was going to make sure you lived.
Yeah, or dealing with like bombs, mines, explosions,
Mhm.
artillery.
Yeah.
Not direct hit, but shrapnel that may hit you. You're gonna get binged. You're gonna break a rib, and
Yeah.
you go, I hate everything, but it won't outright
Oh,
kill
yeah.
you.
And then you get into tanks. The officially speaking, the standard tank for the Imperial Guard is the Lehman Russ.
Mm-hmm.
It's not much of a standard because there's so many different patterns of the Lehman Russ.
I was gonna say that's like it's a Sherman. Which Sherman?
I don't think the Sherman had a rotating 50 millimeter auto cannon, rotary barrel 50 millimeter auto cannon.
If you pitch that to Churchill or to God, if you pitch that to the Allies, they would have done it. They just didn't think of it.
They actually tried that in the Cold War with it was like an M60 variant or some shit that had a GAU 8.
Oh yeah, yeah. Which God, why? Anti-aircraft? Yeah, sure, okay. That's what.
No, I think they wanted to use it like against tanks.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, because the GAU 8 round isn't. Anyway,
Yeah, we won't go down that rabbit hole. We both know.
Yeah, so they have so many different patterns of Lehman Russ, and there's so many different configurations of Lehman Russ. Almost every single Lehman Russ pattern out there has the option for sponson mounted weapons and a hull mounted weapon.
Right.
Those sponson mounted weapons can be heavy bolters. I don't know about autocannons, but heavy flamers, plasma cannons, multi-meltas. But there's also hull-mounted weapons, and those can have las cannons, auto cannons, multi-meltas, all of that shit.
Okay.
And then the different patterns typically refer to the turret-mounted weapon, which is typically like a 100 to 120 millimeter cannon, battle cannon.
Okay.
I think smoothbore is the standard. Some have auto loaders, some do not. Depends on the pattern.
Varies on the pattern. Right, that's what I was thinking. And then, so that makes sense. So they're defining it more by its main armament than anything, it seems like, and how the main armament is configured.
Yes.
And then everything else is sort of accessory.
Yeah, and it's like the difference between like a pintle mount, like a cupola mounted 50 cal and a cupola mounted Mark 19 on an M1 Abrams.
Right, it's negligible.
Yeah. The Lehman Russ has many different variants. It's got, the battle cannon, but it's also got twin las cannons, twin auto cannons, a rotary Punisher cannon, which is like fucking 6-barrel, essentially a GAU 8.
Right.
Heavy flamers, an executioner plasma cannon. I don't know if they have a giant melta on it.
And all of these, as a side note, from what I understand, all can also have sub-variants based off of the regiment itself's own particularities and modification.
Oh, yeah. Some model, as standard, they all have auspexes, but, the degree of sensor package can vary. You have the Vanquisher and Demolisher, pattern. The Vanquisher is essentially a long 80, the 40k equivalent of a long 88.
All right.
In the context. So it's like 100 millimeter, but it's got a super long barrel and it goes really fucking fast. And it is the tank hunter.
Yeah, it's just I'm going to yeet armor.
Yes. And then
Kinetic
you have then you have the Demolisher, which is the snub-nosed 44 Magnum of the Lehman Russ. It is meant to throw a big-ass shell relatively slowly in a wide arc to beat the shit out of fortifications.
Right.
And then
this says nothing of their artillery as well.
No. They also have pintle weapons for, like, the commander's hatch and shit. It's typically a heavy stubber, but you'll also see storm bolters.
Okay.
And if you don't know what a storm bolter is, it is two bolters.
That's the two stuck together, yeah.
Yes, sandwiched together with a giant drum mag. Yeah, it's fun. The standard IFV of the Imperial Guard is the Chimera, and it's got just as many, if not more, variants. Oh, I almost forgot. There's the Death Strike variant of the Lehman Russ. Which is an ICBM launcher.
Oh, okay. That's...
So you know the MGM-52 Lance that we had back in the Cold War?
Yeah.
It's that, but it's on an actual armored chassis.
Oh my... Oh.
And they can have a bunch of different warheads. They can have virus, chemical, standard nuclear, plasma.
Standard nuclear! Oh my god, it comes with a nuclear tactical warhead as standard.
Yes.
That's just...
They also have giant plasma bomb variants. Which is less, I want to remove that entire, city, and more, I want to remove that entire fortress.
Yeah, that is just, that is now glass. We're going to press a button and turn that to glass.
And then you get over to the Chimera. Bunch of variants on that. Standard variant has a multi-laser. Some have banks of essentially las rifle port-firing weapons. Some don't.
Right.
Almost all of them have a hull-mounted heavy weapon of some sort. Flamer, autocannon, melta. You get the picture. The turret can be a multi-laser, an autocannon, twin-linked heavy bolters, heavy flamers, and there's a variant that is, I think it's called the Hellhound. It is a heavy flamer tank.
Oh my.
And then there is also a variant on that one which has a chem cannon.
Oh, so it just sprays poison.
I think so. One sec. What is it? The Bane Wolf?
Absolutely nuts.
Bane
And
Wolf
I'm just like,
Warhammer. Yeah.
like
All right.
Promethium is one thing, but like if you're spraying like
with a special chemical cannon known as a chem cannon, it makes it more effective in an anti-infantry role. Chem cannon is very potent. It doesn't specify what it is.
Corrosive.
Is
It says something about corrosive fumes. That's all I'm seeing. For Bane Wolf.
Okay, which has been modified to unleash a noxious cloud of gas. This gas is so toxic that it dissolves all organic material it comes into contact with, stripping flesh from bone.
Nice, like the virus bomb in SVAN 3.
It's
a chemical
fluoride
weapon.
trioxyfluorine or whatever the hell that is.
Yeah.
It's the stuff where like if you synthesize it, the only PPE is a good pair of running shoes. That kind of shit.
Yeah. There is also an anti-air variant of the Chimera.
Oh, I'm sorry. The thing I was thinking of is dioxygen difluoride. Literally more oxidizing than oxygen.
Jesus fuck.
It can,
All right.
you can light glass on fire if you have this stuff.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's horrible.
Oh, I need to get a barrel. Anyway.
It's awful.
There is the Hydra flak tank.
Hydra flak? So I'm guessing that's what, like, quad something?
Yes, it is.
Like, whenever I imagine flak, that's the image I imagine is the
Mhm.
quad flak cannons.
Armament. Main armament, 4 long-barreled autocannons.
Okay, so yeah, it's like it's like quad 88 millimeter flak cannon kind of.
No, it is more like they had like, I think the Germans had like a 50 millimeter autocannon or something that they used for AA.
Oh, okay.
It's more like that.
Okay.
I think it's got its own sensor, like radar package and shit.
I can imagine.
Doesn't
like
say anything
Auspex
about
is not
that.
going to be pointed up.
Oh no, yeah, no. Artillery variants of the Chimera,
Oh no.
which has an Earthshaker cannon on it, which is like 140 something millimeters. Comparatively long range compared to, say, World War II, early to mid Cold War artillery stuff.
And it's self-propelled, which is
Yes.
like everything about the Imperial Guard. And it's funny because they have a lot of dismounted regiments. It's very clear that they do have a lot of infantry. It's like, but everything here can be packed up into a box and shipped anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, that is their vibe, and I really...
Well, they also have standard, just like emplaced fixed guns.
Right.
They also have a variant that is a siege bombard with incendiary shells.
Oh my god, what?
Yeah. Not quite as big, but comparable to, say, a Sturmtiger.
That's just...
Only it's not a rocket launcher, it's just a giant fucking gun.
Yeah, it's like the Tsar cannon.
Yeah, it's they also have various other specialty gear, but that doesn't fall
There's
under
tons of...
standard, quote unquote.
Right, yeah.
Okay, that is equipment, unit types, and we've already gotten into a lot of them, but you have your standard line infantry, Cadians and the like. You've got heavier infantry, which can mean either heavy weapons teams or heavy assault troopers.
Yeah, like shock kind of.
In fact, a lot of the Cadians, their regimental moniker is the Cadian Shock Troopers.
Okay.
You've got light regiments like the Tanith, who are, meant for more organic battles, essentially.
Right.
You've got abhuman regiments, you've got drop regiments, Elysian. We already covered most of this, damn it.
We kind of went a little bit far afield. Is there anything like? So if you have obviously there's a technical and military difference between a experienced regiment, squad, or platoon, and a less experienced one. Is there any is there any do they organize them into like veteran regiments, or are they just kind of
it depends on the regiment? Like the Cadians have an entire subtype of regiment that is white shields, and they are literally essentially like ROTC.
Okay.
They are fresh off the boat cadets. They've gone through basic, but they haven't seen shit. They are called the Acadian White Shield. But most regiments are just, okay, we've gone through some shit, we've taken some casualties, we're getting some new guys in, we're gonna blend them in with you guys.
Okay, yeah.
But veteran units are their own, at least on the tabletop, they're their own thing. They get, more special weapons, bolters, plasma guns, shotguns, shit like that, compared to a normal troop.
And then those are normally, so there would be like veteran squads or veteran platoons, but you wouldn't have like a veteran like regiment. Like that would be no. That would be no, because
it would, you hypothetically you could, but it would be unusual.
Okay. I mean, and that makes sense when like some guardsmen like regiments, they have a contact life expectancy of 17 hours. So I mean, like,
well, yeah, but you also have to remember there are penal regiments whose entire job is to die,
right,
for the other regiments.
They're my favorite.
There's an excerpt from one of the Armageddon books where an entire regiment of, it was either Armageddon PDF or Armageddon Steel Legion, had lost their equipment. So Yarick or some other commissar or some, administratum dweeb said, "Oh, you don't need that anyway. You're a penal regiment now."
Oh my god, no!
Or
that demotion, like, whew.
Or there's also penal regiments that are pulled from penal worlds.
Right. So Space Australia.
Yeah, essentially. Space Anzacs, but they're treated even worse somehow. That about covers it, actually, for unit types. Their role in the Imperium is they are the filler. I hate to say it, but they are the standard military unit, and they are to fill in where other more specialized units cannot.
Yeah. They're the first and last line of defense, basically.
Yes.
Got it.
They can do more than that, like Crusades and stuff, as an example.
So the Imperial Guard do they go on their own crusades, or are they attached as part of?
They are the main force of a crusade.
Okay.
Everything else is just supporting units, even Astartes.
So the Indomitus Crusade, like per pound, it's going to be mostly, Imperial Guard.
Yeah.
Well, I think when it comes to, it's different. It's like the difference between a war and a crusade.
Mm-hmm.
They are very similar, but crusades are mostly started because of Space Marines, whereas just the normal wars are started because of Imperial Guard.
Well, there are, crusades overall can be started by anyone. A Space Marine chapter can go on a crusade. The Black Templars have been on crusade for 10,000 years, non-stop. But like,
because I mean, like,
when
you would need everybody else to be able to functionally make it work.
Well, I said they were the main force. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like Imperial Guard don't have the authority to start a crusade.
No. What I meant was, when the Imperium starts a crusade, when the Imperium itself declares a crusade, they are the main body of the crusade.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
Any other faction within the Imperium can go on their own crusades. Mechanicus, though they just call that explorer fleets or whatever the fuck. Astartes, the Ministorum, not quite, but I think the Sisters of Battle can. And the Inquisition definitely can.
Well, the Inquisition,
Oh,
the Inquisition are fun.
Yeah, they're their own videos. Even just the rank structure is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
They can be used for anything from garrison to expeditionary troops.
Okay. Yeah. So the word guard is a bit of a misnomer because they are also a aspect of the offensive plan and like concept of the Imperium.
Yes. It's, I would call them a mix of, the U.S. Marine Corps and the U.S. Army, because they can do everything either one can do.
Right. And because from what the big thing that I remember hearing, and I forget if this is something that was apocryphal, like non-canon, was the Guard are the shield and the Marines are the sword.
No, it's more like the Marines are a scalpel and the Imperial Guard is a sledgehammer.
Okay.
If you want to do one thing really, really good, call on the Space Marines. If you want to do one thing, but you don't care what happens to everything else around it, call the Imperial Guard. They do technically have stormtroopers, technically, that are in. Well, no, more than just like heavy infantry, like specialized, fucking super heavy Delta dudes, essentially.
Yeah, power armored out and
not power armor. Power armor is actually extremely rare outside of the Astartes and Sororitas, but they've got like heavy duty carapace. They've got sealed helmets with integrated low light thermal optics and rebreathers. Mm-hmm. And they have, as standard, hell guns. The Cadian Kasserkin is one such example. And then there is, even though they are part of the Munitorum, or was it Administratum? One of the two, there is the Tempestus Scions. They are not strictly speaking Imperial Guard, but they will often be attached to Imperial Guard units in a war zone to do certain things. Krieg has their own variant in the form of Grenadiers, and to be called like Grenadiers or Stormtroopers, you need to have essentially carapace armor, hell guns,
right,
and be assault specialists.
It seems like to me, and again, I'm thinking about this from like a commander's view. It is an absolute roll of the dice when you get into an engagement, what you're handed.
It depends on the situation of the officer before he gets it. Some officers are permanently attached to their own units.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Krieg. They have their own command staff within armies.
Right.
But once you get outside of like armies and stuff, it can be a crapshoot, yeah.
Is that like, I'm imagining, what's a good example? Like, there's a rebellion, a chaos.
Yeah.
Korn decided to be corny.
Yeah.
And we got to take care of this. And it is entirely contingent on what is around me and also what I can get away with via paperwork. And
it is
large. Be that first.
Yeah. Well,
I don't want to be that first set because that's
what you are handed as an Imperial Guard commander is wholly dependent on what is nearby.
Right.
Unless it's a crusade. In which case in which case the War Master will, put out requests for X unit, X unit, X unit, all that shit.
I'm also imagining like the time of flight and lead time for anybody outside of like that bubble of command.
Mhm.
Like if this is like a big deal that you're dealing with, and then it's like, well, like if it's too big for that guy's bubble of command, how does he run? Does he run that all the way back to Terra?
So that falls under how the Imperium itself is laid out, because you have crusade, you've got wars, you've got crusades, you've got all kinds of shit. Generally a war, like, and this is like within the larger thing, and assuming crusade is going on, it'll be a war and then a crusade, and then it'll go up to sector level.
Okay.
Or like set subsector, and then sector, and then segmentum.
And that's like,
Yeah.
if you're dealing with a problem that's at that scale, this is no longer your hot potato. It's somebody else that's way above your pay grade.
Essentially.
And you're probably dead
kinda.
because you probably landed and got eaten alive by some chaos demon.
Yeah,
So you're fine with it.
So, for example, say you're going to that chaos uprising, you will have, and it's only consolidated on one world, you will have several armies to throw at the world however you see fit. The odds of you being on planet is very low.
Right. Okay.
You will be on a nearby planet or in a neighboring star system.
Okay.
So that way, if something big does happen, like a Tyranid hive fleet popping
Or
out of the
Angron decides to
ether,
knock on somebody's
Yeah.
back door.
yeah, you can go, oh shit, and then hit the panic button.
Do you think that they have a timer? Do you think if I was them, I would have just a little clock that says, "Can Angron come back yet?" Like just a little.
There would be yes, there would be
Timer.
there would definitely be an inquisitorial element that is tracking that. Yes, at the very minimum. Yeah,
That's another thing that I do know about is how Angron just has a respawn timer.
every demon does.
Yeah, but his is so specific. It's like 8 weeks, 8 days, 8 hours, or some shit.
Yeah, it's like
He's a
8 years, 8 months, 8 weeks, 8 days, whatever.
Yeah, and it's just like, I would definitely want to have that on a timer.
Yeah.
Angron is one of those things, man.
Yeah.
Oh, but,
Crusades are their own weird thing because typically they encompass like entire sectors.
Because like the Crusade is
Multiple
the Imperial Guard kind of being proactive.
Yeah, it is. And they, to my knowledge, they answer to a War Master who is in the area of the Crusade, and the War Master answers to Terra. That's it.
Okay, so that's where it gets really spicy, where it's like, I'm doing this, and if you're in my way and you aren't running with it, you're in big trouble.
So it goes like the structure of command outside of Crusade is planet, maybe system if there's more planets in that system, subsector, sector, segmentum, which is essentially like, Southeast United States.
Right, yeah.
Eastern Seaboard, Western, and then Terra.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of this has exception. It seems like there's like a standard idea that somebody wrote down. Real particular.
Yeah, girly man.
And then everybody's kind of like, well, that works if everything else is okay, but we are in like
I think the only rule that is universally followed within the Imperium, and it's an unspoken, unwritten rule, is that there's always an exception.
Yeah, right.
For instance, everyone is bound within the Lex Imperialis, and you are under the law enforcement subject of the Adeptus Arbites, unless you're an Inquisitor or unless you're an Astartes.
I kind of like that though.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there. And this is the thing that I notice is a lot of people complaining about not just Imperial Guard, but the Imperium as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
organizationally. Is that everybody's like, well, everybody seems to be saying a slightly different thing. Everybody seems
Yeah.
to be giving a slightly different tune, and I'm like, that makes sense to me
Mm-hmm.
because regionally you're going to have variations. People are not going to follow all of the
Yeah.
rules.
Like within the military itself of the Imperium,
Mm-hmm.
there is the written standard and then there's the actual standard.
Yeah, the applied standard.
Yes. But there's
That's
yeah. That the organization of the Imperium is its own video in and of itself.
The scale of it is mind-boggling.
Oh yeah,
Like,
no.
I would love to find out if this was intentional or if it was just sort of a artifact of, well, this is the only way we can make this work.
Mhm.
But the way that the Imperial Guard appears to react to threats in this organic manner is
yeah,
very...
it is written doctrine that if you have a threat, and this implies the entire Imperial war machine, if there's a threat, the closest forces will move in to deal with it.
Right. And clearly, obviously, announcing that they're doing that so that
Yeah.
everybody else can be like, oh, crap, there's a thing here.
Yeah. You know, it could be a planetary threat. And then the PDF's like, oh shit, we can't handle this. So they call on the Imperial Guard, and a few regiments from neighboring systems will come in. And then
And
they're
it
like, oh shit, we
builds
can't deal with
momentum.
this. And it, yeah.
Yeah.
And all while that's happening, like in that system, further out, military assets are marshaling, are
Yeah.
mobilizing, specifically because there is a threat in there, and they need to take care of it if those guys can't handle it.
Right. And that's... I really like how
Yeah.
distributed that is.
Mhm.
Because everybody... This is the thing that I think a lot of the more surface level fans kind of don't get, is that they see the man on the golden throne and they think, okay, it's a dictatorship. And it's
Mhm.
like, no, there's the High Lords of Terra, and then out from that, it just goes...
There's
crap.
also an Imperial Senate.
Right. And it, like, from that, it goes completely fractal, and I think they misunderstand the scale of it, because the scale is mind-boggling. There's really no way to explain to somebody who isn't super duper into hard sci-fi or big, like, super big sci-fi. The scale of this is genuinely mind.
Yeah.
I love that there is that diversity
Oh yeah.
in the units and in the regiments and in the concept of it, because it lets anybody kind of play with it. And the one thing I think that the Games Workshop kind of missed a trick on is if they would have made the Imperial Guard the star of the show and made the Space Marines sort of the, oh my god, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
I would have liked it more, but from a marketing
Uh,
standpoint, I can see why they did. So, based off of what you said, I'm going to try and sum up kind of the concept in my brain of what the Imperial Guard.
Yeah.
They're not just like you said. They are trained. They're not untrained chattel mostly.
Yeah.
Penal colonies.
Yeah.
But they are just the full brunt of a massive intersector, galactic, really.
It is galactic.
It like, can we call that K3? I don't know, but
K3.
like Kardashev, what Kardashev scale would they be?
Oh,
like K2 or K3.
I mean, they
Yeah,
have
well,
they have like interstellar travel and teleportation.
So yeah, it would probably be K2, K3, and
It's not standard, but yeah.
just the full brunt of that as raw material, manpower, and like military might. And it's the old joke. The best way is it's the old joke of, yeah, I've got a flashlight and it does diddly. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
I got 10 billion friends. That's a whole lot of diddly.
Yes.
And I feel like that's just, I love that vibe. I really
Yeah.
do.
And if all of that diddly isn't gonna do diddly shit, I got some friends with even bigger diddly. It is the combined might of a massive idiot Leviathan god made manifest through paperwork
It
and
really is.
blood sacrifice.